Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once again to the Operational Intelligence Market Overview here at InsideAnalysis.com. We're very pleased to have Bosch here with us today to give a demonstration. We're going to hear from Roland Strobe. He's going to talk all about visual rules. So with that, Roland, I'm going to turn it over to you and show us what you got.
Yeah, thank you very much. So what we see today is the modeling environment of visual rules. Visual Rules is a business rules management system, and it provides an especially intuitive graphical approach to business rules management. What we are going to see today is an early warning system. It's just an example for operational intelligence. It's a system which takes data about a corporation and assigns a scoring value to that corporation and a warning level. In this scenario, you can think about a credit application. So the corporation wants to apply for a credit, and our rules here decide if this credit application can be approved or should be denied. So what we see here is the modeling environment. We call it the modeler of visual rules. On the left, we see the Rule Explorer, which shows all the details about our rule model, all the resources of the rule model. On the top, we see the data model, like the input data and output data. It's the interface between the outside world and the rules. On the input side, we simply have the corporation, and the corporation is a more complex information. We can have a look at the details. I bring it up here. So you see we have information about the name of the corporation, but also here external rating, the spot price of the corporation, the volatility of the spot price, and so on. So this information, the rules take and assign a score value. You see here, as part of the interface on the output side, we have a score. We also see that score is a numerical information. It's a float value. It's something you can calculate with. We also have a warning level. It's a textual information here, and we distinguish 3 different warning levels: red, yellow, green. And finally, we have another textual information. It's the explanation. It will tell us later on why we have reached a certain scoring level or warning level. And finally, we have a timestamp, so we later on can monitor when the assignment of the scoring value was done. If we go further below the Rule Explorer, we see the rules and how we have organized the rules. So here on the top level, we see that we have a business logic package and an IT logic package. Within these packages, we might have sub-packages with other rules. Well, on the right of the screen, we can see it in a more graphical fashion in the dependency chart. This dependency chart has been generated automatically, and right now it only shows the structural information. So on the top level, we have our early warning system as the example for today's operational intelligence system here. And it contains on the IT side, IT logic package with 2 sub-packages. On the business side, it contains the business logic package with only 1 sub-package, which is the business exception handling. If we like, we can add more details, like the rules. And here we see the rules and the dependencies between the rules. Like the process data rule here, this is a rule which calls 3 other rules, but itself is being called by yet another rule, the process data from a database rule, so to say. There's yet another level of detail which I can include here. It's testing and the organization of the tests in so-called test suites. So here we have a hierarchical level of different tests. I can click on the test, and directly I will get a highlighted list of the rules which are affected by this test. So I can quickly see which test coverage I can expect here. Okay, this is all about dependencies. From here, I can go to the details of my rule model. let's pick the process data rule here. So I will open it up in an own editor. And this now is an example for a so-called flow rule. It's a simple one. And as all the rules in Visual Rules, it can be described here with a free text. And typically a flow rule starts here with a start node, and then it goes from left to right, and if possible then from top to bottom. In our example here, we have a very simple flow rule. It's a linear one, and it starts here, and all it does is it does call 3 other rules in this sequence here. So first it calls a rule which detects missing values. A second one calculates the scoring value, which is then one of the outcome here. And the third one assigns a warning level to the calculated scoring. The final symbol here is an action. And Visual Rules comes with different built-in actions where you can store data in a file, or you can access databases, you can send out emails. And here we have one action which does a report. It reports the results of our rule execution. If we like, we can go into more details, like we can pick up the second rule here, the calculate scoring rule. I will just open it up in a separate editor here. And now you see it's again the same. We have a description, a free text description of the rule. We even can have some hyperlinks to external documentation. It starts again with a start node here, and from here it goes from left to right, and then from top to bottom. We have new symbols here. This is the symbol for a decision. And in order to run through the decision, we need the underlying data model. So here the data model comes in. And we can see here a free text which tells us what this rule node is all about. It should check the spot price if there's a decrease larger than 6% in one day. So it would take one of the attributes of our corporation and do the assessment here. If I like, I can simply place the mouse pointer here on that node, and I can highlight or can bring up in a tooltip the underlying rule expression. Here we see corporation, spot previous day, less than -6. This is the expression if the spot price decrease is larger than 6% in one day. Let's assume the spot price decreases more than 6% in one day. Then we would just follow the line here. The next symbol here is a so-called assignment. And what it does is it simply increases the scoring points for the spot price by 5. So here, highlighted again in the tooltip, we can see the underlying rule expression. And finally, we enrich the explanation, which is yet another outcome of our rule model. So the same we do not only for decrease of 6% in one day, we also do the same for a decrease of more than 20% in 1 month. Here only we add 7 points to the score value, and we finally enrich the explanation. And this we not only do for spot price, also for volatility, CDS, and Standard & Poor's rating, and so on. If we go back to the initial rule, there was a third rule called here from the entry point. And this is actually another symbol here. It's a symbol for a so-called decision table. And this is an example now for a decision table. In the first column, we have a decision which is taken. It's about the calculated score, whether the score is high, medium, or low. And depending on the range, if it's high, for example, we want to set the warning level to red. Warning level is here an information on the output side. It's part of the interface of our rule model. If we set the warning level to red, we also want to fire an action. It's the reject credit application action, because in this case, we automatically want to reject the credit application. For all the cases which are medium score, we want to assign the yellow warning level. And in these cases, we require a manual approval. We cannot automate it. We need some business expert who look at the data and then manually decide on if they want to approve the credit application or if they want to reject it. And finally, if the calculated score is low, we assign a warning level green, and we have an action which is fired which automatically approves the credit application. Well, that much to the rules. Let's continue with testing the rules. Testing the rules means that you can define test cases. And test cases can be, and entire tests can be attached to specific rules. In our case, I have prepared a test for our entry-level rule, the process data rule. It includes 3 different test cases, like one Corporation Delphi with its input data, one for Siemens and one for Toyota. And in all the 3 cases, we have different input data and expected outcome of the test. Now what we do is we simply press a button. We now execute the rules, and the code is being generated. And after the code was generated, we now see in the actual results column the results of the testing. Now in 2 of our test cases, for Siemens and Toyota, we received a green marker which says everything is okay. Expected result was met by the actual result. But for the first test case, for Delphi, we have a red error marker, and this error marker tells us there's something wrong. Here we see highlighted red that the warning level was not matched. So we had expected a green result here, but the actual result was red. So now from here it's now interesting to see what happens during the rule execution. And therefore we can go back to the entry-level rule, and now we see additional information highlighted here. We see some bars here as part of the rule, and the green bar tells us how many test cases ran through each of the rule nodes. We have 3 in total. 3 in total make 100% of our test cases, and all the 3 test cases ran through all the rules which were called here, and also caused the reporting of the results. If we go to the more complex rule, the calculate scoring rule, we now see that some paths were executed once, some were executed twice, and some were never executed. And this is the reason why we don't have a full test coverage here, which is indicated by the blue bar here. Only 91% of the rule nodes were executed here. We don't have full test coverage, so we should come up with an additional test case or more test cases to have full test coverage. And if we even want to have more detail, we can do a graphical debugging here simply by introducing breakpoints and then run the test in single-step execution, and from there we can access the data elements, the input-output data elements, and also internal data elements. This much about testing. Testing is about data and data models. Another important thing about data is impact analysis, and therefore Visual Rules automatically produces a so-called usage matrix. The usage matrix on one side shows the structure of the rules and the rules themselves, and on the other axis we have the data model, like the input-output data elements which we've seen here, but also additional internal data models or constants, the actions which are used in the data model, and so on. Now, in this matrix, we see how many rules operate on a given data element. Like here, the explanation, which is one of the output data elements, is being used in 4 different rules. And we just have to follow the line here. We see that the calculate scoring rule is one of the rules which are using this information. By the way, it's being used 16 times. So in 16 different rule expressions in this rule, explanation is being used. And so by simply looking at this matrix, you immediately see which rules will be affected by changing data, which is a good tool for impact analysis. Another tool for impact analysis is graphical comparison and merging of versions of rules. So this is an example of the comparison of different versions. Like, let me just pick up maybe the first one here. You see here highlighted on the left our current version of the rule, and on the right we see a previous version of the rule. And here in green we have highlighted different naming of an action. This is simply one of the things our graphical comparison and merging tool can bring up here. It can find structural differences between rules, and it can also bring up different changes on the data model. One more thing I can show you here in the graphical environment is the generated documentation. So again, it's graphical. It's on the top level, it shows the data model with the input and output side, but also the internal data, the constants, the actions, and the structural information like the data types for cooperation. Here we can see the structure of the entire rule model. And on the top level, for example, we have the process data rule. And here you see the graphical representation of the rule. For a, let's say for one of the business rules, let me quickly pick up one of them, maybe this one. We can also have the rule expressions being included in the graphical representation here in the generated documentation. So this is it for now. This is some of the major features of the graphical modeling. There's much more to see when we would address the other components of visual rules, but for a short introduction, this is some of the basic steps of rule authoring, testing, and documentation in the visual rules modeler.
Wow, that is some very impressive stuff. Well, folks, we've been talking to Roland Strobe, and this has been really wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you, too.
Okay, folks, we've been taking another demo in the Operational Intelligence Market Overview here at InsideAnalysis.com. Thanks so much for your time and attention. We'll catch up to you next time, folks. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, great job.